Mayor, I'm happy to move confirmation was under very minor change on page 11, last paragraph. It is grammatical. The chair clarified the better for wider community funding issue was either about central government paying the proper amount for the service that was being.
Okay, right, we'll get things underway. So, greeting to everybody. Tēnā koutou katoa, Pula Pulava. So, we'll get under things started first of all with do we need to acknowledge apologies? Just acknowledge that Councillor Thompson's not here. We've also got Brent Cowles and Hannah Halele joining us via Zoom. So moving straight to 1.1 Assets Group update on page 6. Welcome to all the staff who are here, and particularly the group manager and also operations manager, Josh Rendell. So welcome. Hand straight over to you, Mr. Hope, do we?
And I'll hand over to Mr. Rendell, but do have a couple of comments at the end of the report.
Thank you. Josh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hope. I'll take the report as read and we'll head straight to questions if we can.
Excellent. Okay, right, any questions? Councillor Linwood. Excellent.
Hello. I just have a quick question about the community housing units that we have. And basically it's just like a general knowledge question. Who are they available to and what criteria do they have to meet to get into them?
I'm hoping we have Renee on the line to answer that one, but we do have a waiting list of people for those. There is a set criteria and I'm hoping Renee might be able to eliminate us.
So Renee, can you respond to that one, please? You're just muted at the moment. Yep. Hi, Renee. We're not hearing you at all. We're seeing you.
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Okay, great. So most of our housing units are single bedroom units or bedsit units. So they're not suitable for families. So most of our target market, people over 60 and with limited income or assets.
Probably just add to that, there are a few 2-bedroom cottages, and
There's just one.
oh, okay, a few like one, and in Palmerston, you know, we've had, you know, because of the number of units there and the demographics and so on, sometimes we've had them hired out to you know, working people and so on. Is there any in that situation at the moment?
There is. When we do not have any in the target market group, then we do open it up to workers in Palmerston.
Thank you. That helps. Yep, that's good. Councillor Holding.
Renee, it's just I see the words record high, so I guess the question has to be asked: is there a reason for these trends?
No, not that we've been able to ascertain. We might usually have maybe a maximum of 3 vacancies at once, but for some reason this year we had 11 all at once, which actually put quite a bit of pressure on the team to get them tenanted as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Councillor Percival.
Yeah, Renee, this AMP says for property is due by the 30th of June, which is 6 months. It's been going on for quite a while, but I don't really understand. The work will be initiated in the new year following the outcome of the current tranche of property strategy work. Can you explain all that for me, please?
Yeah, sure. So the property strategy work is some strategy. So we're going to determine which properties and how we actually use them. The asset management plan ties into that. We need to understand which properties that we're prioritising as a part of that property strategy work.
Yeah, Renee, why does it take so long to make a plan?
Because we've got a lot of work going on, Guy. We've had a really busy year. Obviously, the property strategy is quite a big piece of work, as is the Oamaru Airport. We've got limited resources, and we've had a few unexpected events through flooding and fires this year.
Sorry, if I may,
Fair enough. The thing. Oh.
So, Josh, if you just add to that, thanks.
Yep, sorry, further to that, an asset management plan or an activity management plan is a highly technical document that does require quite a lot of asset modelling and condition modelling, as well as financial modelling associated with it. They're quite complex documents that do take some time and a fair amount of resource to put into them to complete.
But isn't that being undertaken by a contractor? Haven't we employed someone to do this? And is it just protracting and just extending? I appreciate the fact there's a lot of work in it, but of course they are specialised and professionals.
Yes, some of that work will be undertaken by a contractor. However, there's a whole lot of underpinning data that was required from us as council, as well as a significant amount of review that's associated with it. In addition to that, it is prudent that our activity management plan is driven by our property strategy. So there's a certain amount of work that needs to be undertaken there before we can complete the activity management plan.
Okay. Any other questions, Councillor Ryan?
Just with the MB business case application to bring the remaining sections of the outstation off-road, how much is still left to go off-road? And is that taking into account moving it from the Waimate side to go through Otamatata on our side?
I'm hoping Lindsay might be on deck to answer that one.
Well, I can answer the last part. Certainly that is part of it, is moving it from the Waimate side, because that is all on road and can't be moved off road. The only way that can happen is moving it to the south side of the lake, so running to Otamatata and then down to Avimore on the Waitaki side. So, Lindsay, hand over to you for the rest of it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely the shift over to the Waitaki side from Waimate is definitely part of that business case, along with getting it off-road down Quailburn Road. We have had a few instances of people falling off their bike. It's a high-level sort of document and high-level plan to say this is what we want to do, and please give us the funding to be able to achieve that in the years moving forward. The business case does cover both Mackenzie Mackenzie and our side. And so we've tried, I think from memory, there's about 6 sections that we want to take off-road. I think 3 are on the Waitaki side and 3 on the Mackenzie side. So we've tried to structure it so each council gets a fair programs of work moving forward, but also making sure it can fit within our financial resources. But yeah, we are hoping to get a response in the new year. Robin did contact Mark Walters from IMBY to see if he had a response prior to this meeting, but we haven't had a response to date.
Thank you. Is there, I'm just, sorry, I've been a wee bit loose on the chairing here. So is there anything else on property or recreation? Councillor Blackler.
Thanks, Mikucha. I just had a question, or it's more a comment on page 9 regarding the car park upgrade at the Penguin Colony. It just says the preferred design and budget will be discussed at workshop. So I'm just wondering, in the context of that, will that be kind of itemised out, given the necessity to potentially rationalise a few things going forward?
You just turn your mic off.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, yep, there's some key elements in there, such as landscaping and street lighting that have added to the project budget that we need to discuss, and whether we want to include those in the project or not. They will be itemised so we can assess whether those are worth the investment or not.
Thank you. And then on page 9, Alps to Ocean, storm damage. Just with that whole context in mind, you know, given with the irrigation we have down the valley now, the soil's often at its full water holding capacity. Landscape functions operating in a different kind of manner, which has the streams in a reasonable amount of flow and so forth. Given the predictions about the style of rainfall events we're going to have going forward with climate change and the like, what are we doing to build resilience into our tracks? I've just noticed a couple of links along the A2O that we walk as a family regularly being washed out, and it's not something we can just keep happening and coming back to. We need to. I'm just keen to understand if we've got some strategy around resilience there.
I can provide the beginning of an answer, and then I've got Nancy to take over from there. With respect to resilience tracks, certainly.
Sorry. It should stay. You should be able to leave your mic on now. You just don't need to turn it off again.
Sorry. I'll begin with an answer and then hand over to Lindsay, if I may.
It's just clicked off again. So we're trying to make that like this able to stay on all the time, the same as mine is able to. So hopefully that gets sorted very quickly.
I'll begin with an answer on that one and then hand over to Lindsay to complete. With respect to resilience on the Alps to Ocean, we do try to get as much trail built as possible for the money that we do get through grant funding. So it is often the case that we try to stretch that dollar a little bit to get some extra mileage rather than building resilience into the program. Where we are having storm events occur, we are investing more in resilience, including in improved drainage, improved track work, so on and so forth. In particular, with these storm damage grants that we apply to from MD, we do include resilience programs as part of that. So it's a separate package of works. There's the work to fix the track, and then the work to improve resilience on those areas where we do see the most damage occurring. Don't know if that answers all of your question.
I can add a little bit from a joint committee perspective. So we've had our meeting last Wednesday, I think it was, and there was some discussion on this, and there's certainly one section, there's 3 rivers it's called, and I think it involves around that Otakaiki area where it keeps getting washed out. So we're looking at how we fix problems like that, and for that one, it's actually coming up to the highway again, having a clip on the bridge there to get over, and then head back down, so that yeah, it's one of those areas that gets affected pretty much with every rainfall. It's it's just not cost effective. It's disruptive to people's cycling journey. So things like that are being looked at. And Lindsay, have you got any other thoughts or comments on that?
Oh, look, you've all hit the nail on the head. The trail was designed and built to get the most impact for the shortest, least dollar. And these weather events do give us the opportunity to apply for additional funding through central government, and definitely a key part of that triaging of issues is seeing how we can prevent issues occurring again. The team over quite some years has always tried to build resilience along just up past the Enfield pub was the first lot of concrete washovers for areas that were continually flooding out, and they were small events. And this particular package, we have factored in a possibility, and still subject to approval from central government of putting an additional bridge across the Onomapaya stream, because that had a huge washout. And as Gary said, we do have issues with the Thread River section. So yeah, we're going to have to come up with some novel solutions to try and fix these long term to keep our maintenance costs down.
Thank you. We've got councillors Cowles, Linwood and Hopkins in that order. Thanks. Brent.
Yeah, hi. Look, I'm just having a look on page number 10 with regards to the camping grounds. I see the pre-season checks and those sorts of things. I'm just wondering, do we have an indication of how that's going for a season? Are we looking good? It obviously has a flow-on effect throughout the entire valley. So just wondering where we're sitting at compared to perhaps other years, if we have any of that information.
Look,
Over to you.
I'll have a quick look. I know that I looked about a month ago and we're tracking a little bit behind on budget to what we were last season. We have implemented a new booking, as an online registration system. So this will probably give us a lot more better, accurate information moving forward. But I think we're probably tracking a little bit behind what we were last year. But I'm hoping that if we get a nice, fine Christmas, New Year, then people might make a spontaneous sort of decision to go camping and make the most of it. But definitely we're tracking close to last year, if a little bit behind.
Yeah, just on there, I do wonder that, now that the international sector is opened up a little bit more, whether people are choosing that option slightly more, but it'll be good to see what that trend is looking like. Right, Councillor Linwood.
I just have a question about the aquatic centre. So swimming lessons, I think, are a privilege for lots of families, but they're actually a necessity for our kids. Can we look at subsidising swimming lessons for families who are really struggling if they met a certain criteria? Because I know it's hard.
So they, all those are subsidised through rates anyway, but for the aquatic centre is running a promotion at the moment where they're getting people to sponsor lessons. So I think they're up to about 10 children, but basically can swim free for a season. So Lindsay, can you talk a wee bit more about that and then how those people will be chosen?
Oh, look, I might be winging it here, Gary, but look, I did get an update from Leah just earlier in the week. There's been a couple of larger donations that have come in recently, one from a large one from Whitestone Contracting, and also an individual donor that gave a contribution. And so far that equates up to 30 participants that can get term lessons. So that's a fantastic initiative that has been started, and it's great to see a bit of community buy-in from corporates. I understand that Leah will be working with local interested, not local interested communities, the relevant sectors, groups that may need to be targeted, just to help with confidence in the water and stuff like that. So she does have a plan moving forward to make sure we get the right people getting the right outcomes for this initiative anyway.
So certainly just promote the opportunity for people to pop over and make a donation and so on. Or they cleverly got me to go and do a big promo spot and ended up taking money off me. So it went really well. But yeah, the more people who want to help in that way, the better. And I think this was done as a Christmas thing, but perhaps there's a look at how there could be some corporate sponsorship go into something like that. So yeah, good question. Right. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, look, a couple of things. Page 9, vandalism. The Oamaru Public Garden gazebo been subject to graffiti, perspex melted, Craig Fountain graffiti, flowers pulled out. Some of the offenders were identified and have since undertaken some restitution work with the downers team. Sorry, why aren't we prosecuting them? Why aren't we either using a citizen's arrest process or asking the police to charge them? Why aren't we naming them? Sorry, who are these people? This is disgraceful. And in my view, if we know who they are and they've done some work, I'm sorry.
So we'll let staff answer because it could be kids, and flogging is not allowed anymore. So let's see what they have to say on that. Lindsay, can you?
Yeah. Yeah, it was without going, I don't know the names of the people, but there was a group of 3 young people from one of the local high schools. We did get a member of the community who took a photo of the people after the fact, and so with working through the schools, and they're actually able to identify the perpetrators. It was good that they came back and did apologise to the Downer team, and they did provide us an apology in writing, and it's it was a silly act. We've all done silly acts, and I do hope that this is the last that these people create problems. We were getting a cluster of stuff happening through the gardens over a small period of time, which is unusual, and since that these people have been caught, all this sort of situation has stopped. Whilst they didn't want to admit to any previous sort of incidences, then definitely the behaviour seems to have stopped for a moment. So yeah, we do, where we can, report stuff to the police, Councillor Jim, but more often than not, then it's just a real process just to try and get any action. And generally the approach is to give them a bit of a warning, and we'll move on to the next situation that occurs. So it's not ideal from a community perspective.
Thank you, Lindsay. Just remind councillors we've got 2 hours to get through all of the activity updates. We're nearly in.
One other look, I have.
We're nearly a quarter of the way through, and so we've got. We're only on the first 2 parts of the assets committee. So, Councillor Holding, you haven't seen anything yet, and Councillor McCone, after you. Thanks.
Thanks. I see that willow removal started on the eastern side of the Marawhenua River. Is there potential conversations for the Otamatata River for clearance there for flood mitigation, or is there?
No, definitely. I'm catching up with ECAN in the new year to look at the work under the Otamatata River. I did have a catch up early in late October, early November, and said, look, we do need to catch up and look at this. And they're aware that there is an issue that needs to be addressed. So, yep, we will be working with the ECAN to achieve that.
There's certainly a lot of discussions going on at a number of levels. I've talked to Peter Scott, chair of ECAN. I think Alex probably talked to the CE of ECAN and so on. We need to deal with those flooding issues, and they need to get rid of some of the gravel and some of the tree issues out of those streams, because they cause problems every time. Councillor McCone.
Yeah, just back to page 8 on Holmes's Wharf with the additional work plan. Is there a budget or a costing done for that, and what sort of time frame would you be looking at if it should go ahead?
Renee, you there? Or Josh, are you able to respond?
Still online.
Yeah.
I can't give you specifics on the budget, but there is some budget that has been set aside through the annual plan process for some of that work. As far as timeline goes, I believe following deck replacement, we will be kicking on with some of the smaller items, and then some of the larger ones, such as the floating pontoon, we'll be bringing back to council for a further decision.
Councillor Holding and I had the opportunity to go along there, and they're getting towards the end of the decking the end of the wharf. They've started work on redecking around the day berth at the land end of the wooden structure, and then the other work will be carried out. The buildings on there, it's the first time I've actually gone into those buildings, but there's some really good space in there, and if they can have a commercial use, that'd be really good. Bit of work would need to be done on them first, but we've really given the wharf a really long term of life again, so having good commercial use of that would be great. Another question? That's right. Okay. Right. We'll move on to roading. I think is next. So any questions on roading? Just a question from me, and it's kind of roading and water, I believe. So there was no mention of Itchen Street. This is something that's been going on for a long time, and something which we haven't really communicated to the public on what is happening there. It's something I go over every day, so I'm very aware of it, but there'll be a lot of people. It's a bit of a thoroughfare through there. Mr. Harrison and Mr. Pacey, if you are able to comment as appropriate. Thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and I think I'm best to answer that. Yes, we have been putting communications out through the media around what's happening in Itchen Street. At this stage, we are continuing to survey it. We've identified that the slumping is slowed, if not completely stopped. So we're just pricing out the options to excavate and rebuild the road. We've got one further, the redundant water service. We're going to expose that because there seems to be failures in the water main on the road above the water main that was replaced, I think, in about 2009, 2010. So that old water main, we're going to uncover that and have a look at that. We'll probably be looking to fill that with foam concrete.
So is it suspected that that's filling up with water and then just keeping the whole area wet? Is it something like that sort of problem?
With all of these things, water is undoubtedly the issue, and what we've managed to identify is that we've got failure zones sitting over top of the old water main at the location where the water services to the properties were connected. So if the two are connected, we believe that might be the case, but until we dig it up, we don't know for sure.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Percival.
Yeah, Mike, driving in from home 30 k's into Oamaru, it's been aesthetically very pleasing to see the actual green grass at the side of the road rather than the dead rubbish that's been in the last few years. I would hope that along with 99% of the rural community, that this is an indication that you will be mowing instead of spraying in the next season or 2 or 10.
Your question there is, are we going to continue spraying or are we going to mow? The answer to that is currently the contract is for spraying, and what we're seeing is a residual of a very, very strong growth season, and we will be looking at reporting to council on the relative merits of mowing versus spraying in this 2023.
So what positivity do I take out of that you will discontinue spraying? It sounds like you're just going to keep spray, which is against, as I said, 99% of the rural people.
So I think it's our policy that we need to agree, and it's good that you bring a report through. So is that part of the annual plan discussion, Mike?
The report to come through wasn't part of the annual plan discussion. We'd need to bring that subsequently, I believe.
Okay. We'll look forward to that. Councillor McCone.
So I just noticed on page 17 there, Mike, it says the Western Napara Road seal widening is complete. Last time I went through, there's a whole heap of road cones and bits and pieces. That just being finalised, or what's going on there?
Some of the work through there was to be completed. There's been a bit of a hold up with the spraying and finish sealing on that, and the contractors will be cleaning up the last of their cones over this next week. We want to get everything gone before Christmas.
Yeah, I'll probably just comment on the irony of sometimes the signs are put down and are left there for quite some time and actually create a health and safety hazard. which is what, it becomes counterproductive from that perspective. But yeah, I do think there needs to be more onus on contractors if they're not back within a couple of days, that they actually take the signs away. I know it's more hassle, but equally leaving them in a gutter or on the roadside isn't necessarily ideal either in a number of situations. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, Mr. Harrison, I'm a bit surprised you say that this report on spraying v mowing has to be done after the annual plan. I would have thought it would have been something worthy of consultation. And why can't we do it as part? Why can't we get a report for consideration as part of the annual plan on this matter?
Sorry, I might add to that. I believe what Mike was saying was that we'll have a separate report rather than one through the annual plan process. I believe what Mike was saying is that we'll have a separate report rather than one through the annual plan process. If we were to mow rather than spray, there will be an implication on budgets. So we'll have to have a separate report to discuss that service level, and then that cost will have to be integrated through the annual plan. So it will need to be discussed before the annual plan.
We all know our budgets are really stretched, and to say, well, let's just spend more in one area, which I imagine will also have to go through the Regional Transport Committee as well. Okay, anything else on roading? Councillor McCone.
I just have one other question. Could you please define what the intersection bundles mean and what they are and what the use is? Intersection bundle.
Okay. Mr. Harrison. Yeah.
The intersection bundle is part of the Road to Zero. So we had a number of intersections where we were doing relatively minor works. So that was some minor seal widenings, road markings, new signs, and just some changes around the intersections themselves. The Road to Zero is to improve our safety record of intersections in rural and urban situations. And they'll put together as a bundle because there was multiple for efficiency and economics. We can give you a complete list of what those intersections are, although I think we've given that in the past, but we can give it to the new councillors who might not have seen it.
Yeah, if you could flick it around all of us, particularly getting an understanding of, does this mean more concrete? It's probably one of the concerns on those things nowadays. Thank you. Something else, Councillor McCone?
If I could just add to that, that's fine if we're going to do that sort of stuff, but could consideration be made for the agricultural vehicles and some of the heavy trucks that have got to get in and out of there? It's actually quite dangerous at times with some of the changes.
Through the chair, yes, we do actually now include for the design vehicles going through there. Agricultural vehicles are a bit of a challenge, noticing that there's quite a bit of agricultural movement at the moment with a lot of agricultural trailers that may or may not be supposed to be on the road. And I noticed that the police are looking at the fact that a lot of them don't have registration plates and warrant of fitnesses and such forth. So we design for the design vehicles on the major roads. So yeah, it is noted, and we're looking at that. We include for that. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Blackler.
Thanks, Mia. I just had a question about on page 14 about the Kakanui Bridge. I see project managers have been appointed to work through the first two stages. I just wanted to understand, and forgive me if this is me not listening properly in the early stage, but my recollection is we've had two different messaging around what the bridge will actually be with respect to single or double lane, and what the implications are with respect to what the funding looks like for that project. If someone could comment on that.
Through the chair, certainly, yeah, bit concerned that there's confusion there, but we have got approved funding for the design of a single lane bridge with a cycleway, so that is a like-for-like replacement. Through our design phase, we are looking at the options of single, double, and how that actually fits what can be, and we'll be bringing back with what the cost implications are, talking with Waka Kotahi about what the rules and how we can stretch the rules as far as like-for-like replacement. So everything's still on the table. All we're doing at the moment is putting together the project plans, getting the consultation, all the documents put together so that there's a clear picture around how we're going to start discussing with the community and the stakeholders around what we do and how we progress the design.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, move on to water services. Councillor Hopkins.
Yes, I'm not quite sure who can answer this, maybe Josh or Paul.
Marty.
Drinking, oh, Marty's here, sorry. The drinking water audit. We've been required to do this apparently previously undertaken by Public Health South, now requires external consultant review. And we've got more infrastructure doing this. What's this going to cost residents and ratepayers? Is this just another central government impost?
Yeah, through the chair. Yes, it is a imposition. Initially, previously, Public Health South had done the audit. Now, DIA or Te Mata Arawai have required external audit rather than us doing it ourselves. So it'll be a few $1,000s. It's not a massive thing. It's just something that's been imposed on us again.
It's only a couple of hours work. Okay, that was humour. Any other questions on water services? Okay.
Sorry. Make it one very quick one of the Palmerston water mains. There's a reference there to supply chain issues and the contractor waiting for the supply of 150mm lining material. Has that supply chain problem been solved? Has that stuff arrived yet? I mean, between the writing of this report and us reading it?
Yeah, through the chair, I understand it has. What it did was just delayed the contract slightly. The material had to come out of China. We're having lots of supply chain issues with lots of our products, especially electrical gear, can take up to 6 months to get here. So we're just planning ahead, and we're actually buying lots of materials and supplying them to contractors just to get around that problem.
Thank you. Just a quick question too, Marty. Just the Oil Street pump station and the pre-erosion protection there. I assume we'll be using a loan, and that this will sit against the Oamaru water supply. In which case, it will, if Three Water reform happens and the entities are created, that cost would disappear off to the entity.
Yeah. Well, it'll be funded from depreciation. So we've got depreciation funds there for it. It was an asset that we'd identified quite some time ago. Our share of protecting the coast, QRL planning on spending tens of millions of dollars, and we're just going to leverage off that and work with them to ensure that we had initially allowed for a planned retreat of that pump station, but we will be able to have it there for quite a lot longer now that Kiwi Rail are doing that rock protection work. So it's a real good win for council, save us millions of dollars.
Yeah, no, that's great. Absolutely. I do question whether maybe it should be loan funded with and the depreciation then being able to be used for replacing pipe work and other infrastructure as required, given that, you know, we're flexible on how that depreciation works within a scheme. So I'll leave that with you. That's just my feedback. Cool. Councillor McCone.
Yeah, through the chair, Marty, this fluoridation, I know it's by law. Is there a timeline and a cost, and is it only Oamaru or is it across all the water services?
It's only on the Oamaru scheme that delivers to a number of rural areas as well now, of course. But Marty, you've applied for funding for that?
Yeah, correct, and it's been acknowledged. They haven't given us the funding yet. The requirement is to have it installed in the next 18 months in Oamaru. I suspect that the rest of the supplies, the bigger supplies, will also have a requirement going forward. They just haven't, they're just going to pick off the bigger supplies first, and then well, I understand that's what they tell us, that some of the other supplies, the larger supplies, will also be a requirement to fluoridate.
Yeah, I think the order from the Director General of Health went to, it was 11 or 17 supplies across the country, obviously identified as at risk or largest suppliers. All right, any other questions for the water team? Okay, I think that finishes assets. So thank you, Josh. Much appreciated. Thanks, water team managers. Sorry, assets team managers. Moving on to people interested.
Sorry, Mayor Kircher, just.
You did want to say something at the
Yes, I
end?
did.
Yes.
Just to make Josh sit back down. No, I just wanted to acknowledge that this would be Mrs. Julius's last meeting. She's been obviously a frequent visitor to the council chamber. She's been with council 13 years and has really contributed a lot to the property team and grown its capability in her time in the role. So just wanted to acknowledge her contribution to council. So thank you.
No, thank you. And yes, didn't realise that one, but yeah, of course it is. So thank you very much, Renee. All the very best for your move and to what you're going to be doing in future. Thank you very much for what you have done for the Waitaki district. It's appreciated. Okay, so we'll move over to the People and Transformations / IS group update. So hand over to Mrs. Bailey.
Thank you. And in the spirit of how this meeting is supposed to go, I'm going to take the report as read and just invite questions. And I've got a few of our managers here and some online as well.
Thank you very much. Okay, so working through customer liaison. Any questions for that area? Hannah?
Thank you. Just on page 19, can I ask what does task breached mean?
On the CRMs. So who wants to answer that? Lisa? Thank you.
Certainly, I don't have Mrs. Hicks here today. She's on leave, but I believe it is just where we have not actually reached the timeframes for the CRM. Yep.
Okay, Councillor Holding.
Just on the rates rebates paragraph there, is there it's not quite met, we're trying to do as many before deadline as possible, and is this a sector could it be a sector issue where we need to have some sort of refunding mechanism from central government for doing the work? Or is it not that?
Quite sure I understand the question. This is obviously a DIA initiative that we process on their behalf, and our team certainly advertise it and promote it as best they can to process them.
Oh, sorry, yeah, it looks like it's putting pressure on our staff to meet the deadlines with the amount that we're receiving. Is it a sector-wide issue that we need to look at, or not really?
No, I wouldn't say so. It is something they're certainly conscious of doing because it's a great benefit to the people that this impacts in the community. So, there is always going to be pressure on staff, but this is one of those really important functions, I believe.
Yeah, it's definitely a valuable one. We certainly, it brings a lot more money into the district, which is a big benefit, and obviously helps those people who qualify for that funding. So the cost of it is not currently able to be claimed, but instead it gets spread across the wider population. Anything else, Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah, I've got two questions about the library. First of all, I'm just wondering how
we'll move on to if there's no other for customer liaison, we'll move on to the libraries.
Oh, sorry, right. I thought
we're ready for you now. Go for it. Two questions.
Right. Well, number one, I'm not quite sure how becoming fines free reinforces one of the core principles of public libraries: free universal access to information. I mean, we don't give free universal access to information at the library, and you could argue that by having fines free, we're penalising other people from accessing things freely. So I'm just puzzled as to how we managed to rationalise that. The other question I do have is on page 22, progress was made towards optimising the internal layout of the Oamaru Library. A report has been completed by Int Workspaces funded by the New Zealand Libraries Partnership. We redesigned the whole layout of the library and its internal design and so forth a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. What's afoot here? Why are we having to do it all over again?
So just in defence of staff on the first one, I think we got all the explanation about fines free and the benefits and why it was helpful when we agreed to do that, to introduce that. I'm not sure if Jenny wants to add anything to that, but certainly you've got the other question there as well.
Yeah, through the chair, thanks very much. Thanks very much, Councillor Hopkins, for raising the issue regarding fines free. So it's a well-known fact that fines only impact vulnerable people, and vulnerable people are the people who actually use the libraries. And the other implication of actually having fines is actually libraries lose books, and we don't want people to feel like they can't bring those books back. People have fines and they don't actually bring the books back. So we actually lose more in the long term than by going fines free than not. So I hope that answers your question. The second question, can you please remind me of what that was? The layout of the library. So through the chair, the library was relaid out in 2017. Since that time, as you can appreciate, the needs of the community have grown substantially, and the need for library spaces and places to meet the needs of the community is now different than what it was in 2017. And for example, we've been trialling quite a few different programs to more widely meet the needs of the community, and currently space is at an optimum in the library. As you know, our core is literacy and building literacy with our families and our community, but more than that, literacy is about helping people with digital literacy, financial literacy, cultural literacy, and well-being. So how we've developed in the last 5 years has been substantial and continues to grow and develop as we more meet the needs of our community.
Thank you. And I think it sort of points to, the need for updating the culture and heritage plan, the strategy, because it brings into into effect those changes and so on, recognises them. Councillor Ryan.
Through the chair, just going back to the becoming fines free, have you noticed any impact so far, or is it too early? Has it had any benefits so far?
Through the chair, we haven't noticed the impact so far, and that's due to the fact that we haven't promoted it widely, and we do need to get out there and promote it widely across the community. So it's part of our strategy for next year.
Councillor Percival.
Yeah, might I suggest that there's a name change and you call it Community Hub Plus Library? Because the whole thing, when I filled in the form, there was a survey the other day, and I was very critical of the fact that the library is not a library anymore. But if that's the way you choose to go, which seems to be nationally accepted, therefore I think there should be a name change. Thank you.
Through the chair, I'd like to respond to that.
Please do.
Libraries will always be libraries. We're always about literacy and reading and information. That is our core, and that is the core of what we do. But as everybody's aware, it's impossible to navigate the world without literacy, and that is the sound platform and the sound foundation on which we build everything else.
That was a very good answer. And we just point to things like it's not just the library, what happens in the library. We're working with the library around the Storybook Trail and having opportunities for people to go and enjoy reading, when they're out walking around the harbour, for example. So those sorts of things, it's about making it more seamless and just more accessible as much as possible. But yeah, I've certainly been in there and got out the occasional book. They still have them, which is really handy. Councillor Blacklock, don't keep them too long, Councillor Hopkins, because otherwise you won't have to pay a fine.
I just more wanted to provide an opportunity for comment there further to Councillor Percival's comment. I noticed when I attended the opening of the archives room that the library and the museum have a partnership around the use of quiet space and stuff. So I thought that was a positive, basically a positive outcome. Yeah. People.
Maybe a padded room for I mean, sorry, a soundproof room for Councillor Percival. It almost was. Okay, anything else on that library? Okay, Mrs. Bailey.
I will just respond to that, and thank you for the comment. It was appreciated that it was noticed. We do actually do quite a lot of collaboration across all of the cultural facilities in particular. So you will see more and more of that sort of thing where they're using each other's facilities for different initiatives. So thanks for noticing.
Excellent. Right, I'm going to Opera House. Notice a couple of trucks sitting outside full of scaffolding and stuff.
Yes, the scaffolding is going up for the dome restoration, so it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Looking forward to that. So they obviously some work has to be done on the dome, so the scaffolding will be there for that. What's the time frame for that being carried out?
So the conservator and the working team are going to arrive on the 23rd of January. And they'll be there for 4 weeks. So we're also taking the opportunity to get the chandelier cleaned, which I don't believe's happened for 12 years. So
correct. Yeah.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, that's good. You can that microphone is able to stay on, so you can just leave it on for now. Right, any other questions or comments about Opera House? No. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's in there or not. When does the Opera House open up again?
16th of January.
16th of January. Thank you. Okay, moving to the Forester Gallery. We've got Chloe here for that. Any questions? Everyone's happy? Sorry, we didn't get to the opening of the archive. We had another meeting on, unfortunately. So, but yeah. Looked like it went well, and great to have it as much more usable space. And yeah, it's looking really sharp. So well done on the whole aspect of the development. And obviously a bit more work to be done, but you're happy with progress, Chloe?
Yes, as all elected members will realise, it's been a challenging few years to get things done. I had really hoped we'd have upstairs open this side of Christmas as well, but it just wasn't to be in terms of, as some people in the Assets Committee noted, getting things shipped from overseas. We've got some lighting that's on its way from Germany, I think, and we look forward to celebrating the opening of those upstairs spaces early in the new year as soon as we can get those lights and other things installed.
So, sorry, I was adding the museum into the gallery aspect. So, Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, look, the visitor numbers for the gallery and the museum both trending very clearly in the right direction, with very low numbers earlier in the year and much higher ones now. Is there an explanation for that? Is it just familiarity? Is it the quality? The museum's contents are pretty much static and unchanging. So how would you explain that? Is it just people realizing that they're back, that we're both back in business?
I think there's probably 3 factors to it. We're definitely seeing the return of international visitors, which is really, really heartening. I ended up having to work a Saturday the other day and had some lovely conversations with some visitors from the UK. So that's wonderful to see, and wonderful to see that they're realizing our facilities are on their travel plans. Having a new curator in place at the museum, Henry, who's been working very well with our educator, Liz King. We've had a significant engagement with the schools in the second half of the year. And of course, when you get a whole school through, that does lift the numbers substantially, but that does show that we're really meeting their needs in terms of the new displays. And as they're getting ready for the changes to the curriculum next year, they've been trying out a few things in there. And then probably the third thing is what you pointed to, just simply it does take a while for the news to filter out that spaces have reopened after some changes, and we're still seeing some people, and with the promotions around the Archive Open Day, there were certainly some people who hadn't been into the museum since it's changed as well. So it was good to attract those people in, and we'll continue to promote what we've got over the summer and get more people through.
Look, since you mentioned the archive, if I may, and I know we've discussed this before, but the numbers are really quite low relative to what they have been. And I think you said previously that it may relate to charging or pricing, but is that the only thing that's, I would have thought that in theory, the archive use should have gone up alongside the other two. So what is happening?
I think there's probably, again, a couple of contributing factors. One is simply a change of staff. And while we try and be consistent with the keeping of numbers, I think Ellie Dunkley, anyone who's worked with her, she's probably very much a stickler for what's counted as an inquiry and what's not. So I think there may be a bit of a change of regime in terms of that. And over the next year, we will see that consistency through her sense of what's recorded. And then I think the other thing is we are encouraging people to do as much self-help as they can online. And that's partly been through COVID. Some people moved into doing that, and they may well actually be showing up next door in our library using things like Ancestry and Papers Past and not be seen in the archive as an inquiry.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, move through to governance. Any complex questions for the governance advisor? None. Okay, moving on to IT and information management. Councillor Holding? Oh, Councillor McCone? No? Oh. Okay. Any questions? Probably, yeah, just checking, just on the business continuity, underneath the photo of the wonderful looking members of the IT team. It talks about a 600% increase in data flow. Is that capability, or there was at 6 times more data flowing?
Through the chair. So that is 6 times the amount of data we can push through this. That'll help support the Opera House with the future technologies and ongoing changes that they make up there to in the current world we're in.
So it is a capability. It's not that suddenly they had 6 times.
It's capability of the future.
Thought, yeah, that might be the case. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, Scott, thank you. Just on page 32, you talk about the IS team being actively engaged in creating a program for the council aiming to attract and retain graduates, and how we will support them and so forth, bringing fresh eyes, etc., etc. So how's that? I mean, has it begun? Have we got anyone? Have we put a package together? Where is that at? It seems like a very promising initiative. So at what stage is it now?
I'll let Isabel, who should be on Zoom, answer that one.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So we are still creating that program, but it's in a stage that we believe that it's able to start next year. So the stage, where is it? We are preparing internally the structure of this program. And the idea is to have a graduate in different units in the council, so that the knowledge is built and we have people with more understanding of the other units processes. And we have a list of contacts, and we expect to have it started in the beginning of next year. And it considers a 3 years program. The first year in spatial sciences, so in GIS systems, in mapping. Second year to extend that knowledge into other systems like the ERP system, and the third year into more intelligence, so Power BI. So this is a program that we believe that will attract and retain skilled staff.
So if I may, just a question, if you're proposing to launch it next year, does that mean that we'll have to wait for 12 months before we get graduates? I mean, are graduates currently aware that, hey, what's the space? Something interesting is coming up, or does the market know anything about it at all yet?
No. So as I say, this is something that we are creating for the first time to the council, and what the first step outside of the council will be to contact universities and ask them to present us an expression of interest with some information that we have, that we believe that is important, like what they have studied, what are the expectations. Yes, and so we expect to have from these graduates what they expect to gain. And so with that expression of interest, we want to match their expectations and also our expectations.
Thank you. Just a quick question from page 31. ERP system, what's ERP stand for?
So it's enterprise resource planning, and it's what we have at the council with authority. So it has different modules. It's a corporate system. So the different modules give support to the different business units, like human resources, finance. So it's the system that we all use, to book our leaves and everything. So it has different modules.
No, thank you for that. Does it fit well with the authority system? Does it connect efficiently?
Yeah, so
into
it's
that?
Yeah, so it's exactly the authority system with the different modules. Yes.
Gotcha. Rightio. Right. Any other questions on IT, IM, IS? Okay. Project management office, that's a separate part again, is it? It's just some different capitalization on some of the matters. Yeah. Okay, nothing on that. Right, go to heritage environment and regulatory group update. Thank you for the managers from the last lot. So, Mr. Cook, you can take it as read, but any comments?
We'll take it as read.
Great minds. Okay, thank you. Right, so starting off on the statutory activity, etc. So, yeah, this is interesting. Just looking at how things are being affected, and there's obviously a delay out there around building activity and so on. It carries over, even though it might be dropping off. But yeah, it's still a busy time for inspections and things like that. Right, got any questions, etc.? Councillor McCone.
Yes, is there a time frame, Roger, when we're going to have submissions heard on the ECNAs?
Mr. Campbell.
Yeah, when we notify the proposed district plan will be when people can submit on the SNAs formally. There was feedback given on them in the draft district plan over winter, but there was very little interest in that topic on the draft plan.
Okay, Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, David, thank you for this. I'm just looking at the very first page of your report, page 34. And it seems to me we're getting less information than we used to. For instance, resource consent's not notified. We get the numbers, but we used to get a brief summary, not to relitigate, but simply for our information and benefit, and for the public as well, for that matter. And I suppose resource consent monitoring might be something else that I don't recall us getting specific information about that. I do remember we were told what the non-notified consents were, resource consents were granted for. Is that going to be reinstated as part of these updates and reports? Because I would personally like to see that information made available.
Through the chair, this format of the report has run on several occasions now. There was a decision taken that the list of consents was not required due to the time it takes to generate that.
I'm sorry, I don't recall that. And I mean, it was basically a house in Kakanui or 2 flats in Eden Street. I mean, I can't see that that's going to take a lot of time to actually compile. And it is useful public information and also information for elected members.
We can consider putting it back in if the councillors feel that's the appropriate use of officers' time compiling the list.
I think probably if there's general categories or something we don't need. I don't think we need specifics, but it's interesting to know, what some of the things, are there trends happening? So yeah, we don't want to waste time on individual matters, but it's the nature of those applications. I mean, is it easy enough to put them into some categories? Sort of looking at Mr. Campbell, just who's probably going to have to oversee this.
Yeah, I guess there's probably more time to categorise them rather than just produce a sort of blanket list.
Right.
We do annually provide a return to the Ministry for Environment that takes probably a full-time person over 2 weeks to compile. That contains all the information about applications, the costs, timeframes, etc. But it's an annual financial year kind of list, but you could get that annually if you wanted to sort of see the overall trend rather than kind of every quarter. It's kind of just quite small increments.
Yeah, if you send that through to Councillor Hopkins, it'd be great. Thank you. Is there a source of information on the website around consents issued? There's not a list there. So no, it's okay. Right, Councillor Holding.
I think while we're on trends, item 5 of food registrations, the first sentence sounds alarming, but it's sort of made up for in the second sentence, but there's 12 businesses have surrendered their food licenses. Is that casualties of COVID, or should we be alarmed? Or
the 12 businesses are generally where particular businesses have ceased trading and they've sold it, and then it becomes a new registration. So that's the reason for those 12 businesses surrendering their licenses.
Okay, so it's not necessarily that it's stopped being a food premises.
To be fair, it's some and some. For example, it's no secret Oscar's Pizza Company is not trading. They would be an example where the license is described as surrendered. When if and when it's sold and a new business goes in there, that would be an example of a new license required.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, anything else on those tables? Going through to page 39. No other questions? Okay, we'll move to exciting world of finance and corporate development. So thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Hope.
And Merry Christmas.
I'll certainly cover off the finance and corporate development part of this report. Mrs. Elgar is on her way down to answer any questions in relation to the community development function. So I'm looking at the door, hoping to see her shake and clear. And there she is. So I've now successfully brought enough time for Helen to get a seat. Yeah, happy to answer any questions.
So, welcome, Helen. Take a seat, get a breath. So any questions not for Helen to start off with? So looking at the areas of finance and rates and quotable value data, it's side of things. Nothing. Okay. We'll go on to corporate development. Nothing there. Community development. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you. Helen, just child, youth and whānau wellbeing strategy. The group got $5,500 from the Otago Community Trust to engage resource to complete. Rangatahi led a simple 4-question youth survey, which had about 100 responses. Be interested to know what they were, but more particularly, how many people were questioned in the first instance? So what percentage of those who had an opportunity to be surveyed does the 100 responses constitute?
So Ethan Reel ran that survey for us, and we tried a number of ways to engage youth, which didn't work. So that survey was particularly successful. I can't answer how many people, everybody had access to the survey. So I've no way of knowing how many people had access and chose not to. But at the end of the day, that was an excellent response from our youth. In addition to that, the resource that we put in place did quite a comprehensive consultation of Māori Pacific whānau teachers, younger students at school. So we've got quite a robust document now. It just needs to be formatted, and you're welcome to see the strategy itself once that's been completed. But we've got all the data we need. And that in itself will feed into the work we're doing with Te Whatu Ora around child and youth mental health as well. So we feel like we're in a really strong position to have some changes occur.
Thank you. And that microphone can stay on if you want to leave it on. Anticipating lots of questions. Any other questions? Councillor Blackler and then Councillor Hopkins.
Thanks. So I just had a question about the methamphetamine whānau support. And I just wondered do we have any data around the trends in that respect throughout the community?
In terms of trends throughout the community, it is a problem, but it's not as big a problem as it might appear to be. The purpose of that group was to provide support for family and caregivers and friends who were not being catered for. So the user is supported, but families weren't. So that was the purpose for that group. It doesn't reflect the size of the problem. It reflects the need of families to have support.
Where she had Deputy Mayor Kalaleli next, and then Councillor Hopkins after that.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just wanted to respond to Councillor Hopkins' comments around the child, youth and whānau wellbeing strategy. I know that some of the Pasifika members in our community had feedback, and it was around, I guess the idea is around what are the models of care and continuum of care are contributing factors to keep our community safe and connected and resilient. So those are some of the things that were feedback through those the people undertaking the survey, just so they can kind of build that in into what the plan could look like and what keeps our community well from a Pacific perspective. So it was thank you, Helen, for allowing that perspective to be included in that. I think it's a good thing.
Thank you. Probably just Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah. Look, very quick comment on the Mayor's task force for jobs. Great to see 25 people placed in employment. Just going back to I presume we will see the wellbeing strategy, and I presume the results of the 4-question youth survey with its 100 responses will be part of that, because it would be useful information.
The whole purpose for doing the survey was to inform the strategy, and as I said before, you absolutely will see the strategy, no question.
I'd like to take the opportunity just to comment on a number of these things, because actually they are really life-changing sort of situations. And the Mayor's Task Force Jobs Youth Initiative, the build capability initiative, even the being more effective with mental health and addictions, and looking after family, dealing with meth. They're all really important things. And some of them are, being the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff type thing, because that's what we end up with. But also some of them are the fence at the top of the cliff. The actual adding, giving people opportunity who wouldn't have them otherwise. So acknowledge the work that you and the team do on that, and thank you very much for that. I think those things become particularly more noticeable and more important at this time of the year. So thank you for a good year's work, Helen.
I would just like to add that the final total for Mayor's task force within budget was 32 people placed in work, and of those we've got 10 that have exceeded 90 days. So we're doing really well, or the team is doing well.
Good. Very good. Okay, Honey, your hand's still up. You got something else?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to support you and thank Helen and the team, and also Jenny in the stewardship group for a lot of the building capability projects that we're doing to help upskill the community. And they are quite hungry for this kind of initiative. So, like to have those numbers coming through, the Mayor Task Force for Jobs is really life-changing, and also the 10 graduates that finished their Bachelor of Applied Management. I see on Facebook a lot of the students are graduating at Otago Polytech, and it's really nice to see that is flowing on throughout the community. So I'm very in support of these types of initiatives, and it's also part of our economic development strategy as well, around building our people in community. So thank you very much, Helen and the team.
Thank you. Right. Thank you very much, Helen. All right, moving on to economic development and communications updates, and into Mr. Farmley.
Take the papers as read.
And we've got Mel Jones online, so just joined us now. So, right, any questions? Probably a quick question from me, Mel, would be the Neat Places brochure. There's a new one out.
What was it? Sorry, Gary, I've just interrupted.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, you were waving the Neat brochures thing, but it was part of the background. So it's actually
yes.
It blurs as well. Put it in front of you, and we can see it more or less. So anyway, that's it. So anyway, well done with that. I did have a question just around who's paying for that. We obviously helped with the first edition of that through the COVID fund that we had for supporting businesses and so on. How's this one worked out?
Yes, good question. So this one has been 50-50 funded with Tourism Waitaki, with money they received from MB that had been underspent, and 50% by local businesses. So same model as last time, but instead of council funding 50%, Tourism Waitaki is. So it fits very neatly with their aims and objectives too. And this time around, we've had 32 new businesses. We had 28 last time, with 12 new additions to the brochure. So really, really pleased to see some new fresh blood coming into the brochure. And already businesses are saying that they're seeing a positive uplift. So it's really good news. I've left brochures in everybody's pigeonholes today, and there are plenty more. If people want to have them and take them up the valley, please feel free, because we have an extra supply here.
Yeah, I think it's probably quite effective, because it's people who are looking for something a bit different, and also, number of businesses who aren't necessarily easy to find, or people, they're not always ones that people walk past and decide to go in. So definitely helpful from that perspective. So well done on that, the work that you've put into it. Councillors, any other questions on ED? Councillor Hopkins?
Yeah, Mel, look, this is not a challenge, but I'm really interested in the fact that our visitor expenditure grew by 9.2%, Dunedin Otago generally 11.7%, and this is compared with a national increase of only 3.3. I think it would. Do we know anything about the specifics of this? To what extent have we actually been able to unpack the particular things that are contributing to this very considerably greater visitor spend than is the case nationally? And how, because it seems to me that would be a crucial thing to build on in future campaigns. Why are more people coming here than the rest of the country?
It is difficult to single out individual things. I think what we're seeing is accumulation of a number of good initiatives that have built a solid base over the last few years. The fact that we've got a strong agricultural industry is actually helping, because it's bringing a lot of visitors from the agricultural sector into the region, and then people are then staying overnight on the back of that. I think we do need to do a bit more analysis. There's been an interesting analysis from Westpac recently that's saying that Otago is likely to be one of the best performing regions in 2023. And they are actually highlighting it's a combination of getting the agricultural sectors and the exports and things that are coming from that, and the tourism sectors, and getting those working together, which is what is going to give you the best bang for buck. So I think there's some good learnings there. We have seen a number of new better quality accommodation and businesses opening up, and I think all of these small things have a long-term incremental impact. But certainly it's something that needs to be explored in a bit more detail as we look at the visitor economy as part of the economic development strategy.
Thank you.
Councillor Holding.
Thanks. On the events economy, you've named a couple of new events that are secured funding. What are the other four?
Most of them are ones that are already happening. So it's the Harbour Street Jazz, it's steampunk, the Waitaki Arts Festival, and I would just maybe highlight that one for a moment, because the good news is that one I think got 25 or 30 grand from the fund, and we're going to be doing a similar model to the one we did 2 years ago, where we'll be really working with local community to ensure that there's a plethora of activities across the district, including Meet the Maker. So Meet the Maker applied for funding and didn't get it, but is now integrated into the Waitaki Arts Festival. So I think that's going to be an exciting program and is going to make a difference. The other point I would make is that it's hugely significant that we've got the Spring Challenge coming into the district, because that is 5,000 participants, but it's all the family and friends that come with them, and certainly already accommodation is saying that they're fully booked out for that weekend. So that's very good news. Then maybe the other point just to note in terms of profiling of the district, as that's been the commentary so far. We're really excited to see in early January, Waitaki and Oamaru is going to be featured in 2 episodes of Country House Hunters New Zealand. And the council put a little bit of money towards that. There's a promotional video that will be launching before Christmas. And we also have all the drone footage that they take that we'll be able to use too. But that's looking at 2 young couples who've come into the district, set up successful businesses or are setting up businesses and are loving living here. So that's going to be a great boost and an opportunity for the council to profile that as part of our come and live and work and play in Waitaki, which will be part of our thinking going forward.
So, yeah, and I've got a meeting in about 20 minutes around promoting that on social media, etc. So opportunity to make the most of that one.
Yeah.
So you can let Anna know I won't be too far away, hopefully.
Well, discussions going with the Taiwanese film crew.
Yeah, I haven't had anything else from them, but apparently the media star that's in that is big news in Taiwan. They were in with a crew of 12 people doing a recce. They've been talking to the New Zealand Camper Van Association. So if that comes off, it could be a really interesting opportunity too. And the other point I would note is we're also looking at a program being filled in Omarama in end of Jan, Feb. Where they're looking at testing a new TV series and doing a pilot episode. So that's one that we're supporting on there too. And we're hoping to upskill one of our local talents in the photographic filming area too as part of that development. So pretty interesting opportunity.
Okay. Just looking at the social media as far as channels go, and Yeah, there's mention of Twitter, you know, and it seems to be a declining medium. So yeah, I'd probably just give that one perhaps a bit less emphasis, but exploratory look at TikTok somewhat reluctantly. I think the important message there is you need to use people who do TikTok, who understand that. Trying to pick it up and so forth and adapt to it is probably not the ideal way. So if I can make that suggestion, certainly not putting myself forward for that because I'm definitely not in that camp. But there will be ones who will be around, perhaps around the building itself, but might be able to feed into that, and we'll see how that goes. All the best.
I think it's just recognizing that we need to get a little bit tighter on who we're targeting and what sort of media are they using. So I think the team are doing a good job to try and get some better insights than we've had in the past. So that'll be a piece of work they'll be prioritizing early in the new year.
In the meantime, we'll all practice our dance moves.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, Councillor Ryan.
So I just had a quick comment on the somewhat reluctant look at TikTok. I know there's been a lot of discussion around other councils using TikTok, particularly Wellington City Council, and some criticism of that. But I think if there's an opportunity to connect with a new and currently unengaged audience, then that's only a good thing. And if you can have some fun while doing it, then
yeah, exactly. Agree.
Hannah.
Oh, just a quick one. I know the Mayor has got a lot of TikTok followers and likes from one of the posts that were done on the night of the inauguration. So he might like to share that sometime.
It was 1 week cameo. I don't think that makes an audience, but we'll work on it though. Awesome. No. Councillor Holding, you TikToker from way back.
No. But I just noticed the new logo on the page there. I'm just wondering what departments are we using that across, and can you give us some background history of the design page?
I think that logo is the Waitaki app logo. So it looks like it's fallen down a little bit. So that relates to the last comment in the ED piece, which I would encourage all the councillors, if you could, to download the Waitaki app. Cara and Dan and the guys have done a great job in setting that up, and it is the sort of one-stop shop to tell anyone who's coming into the town or who's currently living here, this is what's going on. So council information is profiled there, but so is events and other business activities. So they've done a great job setting that up, replicating some work that's been done in Central Otago.
So if anyone's aware of the Central app, it's got a huge following over in that area, and it's the same person involved in this one, but also Cara Tipping-Smith and Dan Lewis involved here, and very good opportunity to actually have that centralized events information base, as well as news, local news, and various other articles of interest and so on. So definitely worth downloading and having a look at. Right, any other questions on ED? Councillor Hopkins? No, okay. Councillor Ryan?
So I just had one comment or maybe question on the voting campaigns, particularly to encourage nominations. I just had some feedback that there was some confusion by using local people in those photos, that people actually thought that they themselves were standing, and I don't know whether that may have discouraged others from putting their names forward. Visually I think they look great, but I just wondered, had that been feedback to you at all, or do you have any feedback on those comments?
I believe there was some input early on, but the design was optimized to make sure that was clear, and there was other comms put around that. But yeah, I think that was an early comment.
I'll ask Mr. Palmer if he wants to comment on it as well. As the person responsible for increasing participation, both with candidates and voting.
Yeah, I could say flippantly, we tried to discourage some people, but it weren't successful. But no, I didn't say that. I know some people fed back that they, there was some confusion initially, but I think most people received it in the spirit that it was about, local faces fronting a campaign to encourage people to think about standing for their community, local people that are well known, in the community. I think in hindsight, it might have, we might have put a sort of an explanation on the bottom there about what it was about and what the message was. But I think overall it was well received that it wasn't a national campaign with people that were unknown in the region, and that most people recognise the faces that were on there or some of the faces that were being used.
Yeah, just to add to it, it was a local government New Zealand initiative, and I think it was really it was good and it was really clever. Just not anticipated that what do I stand for question on those ones did imply that those people were standing. So just needs some modification of them. But otherwise, the ability for local councils to use local people, but not have to create the whole media campaign was really helpful. And it was I think obviously very successful given who got in. But also, it was a really difficult. I mean, it was just a very different campaign this last time round. The delay in people putting their names forward, and then some. Yeah, I mean, we did pretty well in the end, but some didn't do so well. Brent, Councillor Gals.
Just around the election, I see in here talking about the Ahuriri by-election. It's good to see that we've got three what I would deem to be quite strong candidates and spread well out so far over our ward. It's been a frustration 3 years community ward myself, and it's always been by-election. And so, it'd be nice to be able to engage earlier, I guess, with maybe a campaign like we've seen this time to try and encourage that. But certainly really pleased to see the strength of the candidates that we do have, and that they're well spread throughout the community.
Yeah, agree.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? One more, Councillor Hopkins.
Just on comms, on page 53, a targeted communications campaign aimed at building positive uptake of objective build, Council's new building consent portal was successful, with engagement events well intended and relatively smooth user transition. Can we have a bit more information about that? It's I must have missed it.
Who was it aimed at?
It was aimed, I understand it was aimed at builders and the building community. Basically,
I think Roger's going to add.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mel. I think Roger's going to add to it as the one who probably was the delivery. Well, the purpose end of it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes, through the chair, it was to promote the software enhancement that we took on recently to the application portal for building consents. It was targeted at basically architects, builders that apply for building consents online. Very successful campaign run by the comms team, and there's actually been sought out by other districts that are joining Objective Build now. So very well done. Thank you.
Well, let's hope we put a price on what we've done.
Thank you. Right. Next, move on to Brent. One more. Yep.
Yeah, sorry. I was just on page 52 under emergency preparedness, and I think I brought it up around the AF8. It was very helpful when we went up to the zone meeting. I know that they're still travelling around with a road show, and they've done sort of the Twizel area in Mackenzie, and I believe they've done one on the route. I'm just wondering, do we have any influence, or can we request that perhaps, we look at one up at the Ahuriri end? I think, if we were going to be affected by the AF8, it would be a good area for us to be looking at perhaps holding one of those road shows if we could request that they come to this end of the valley.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Roger, do you have any comment as a civil defence person?
No, I think that's a good idea. I did seem to recall that I thought perhaps they'd done one up there some time ago, but certainly we'll go back and revisit that and get that on the engagement plan with them as fast as we can.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now on to health and safety. And we've got Bill Nelson, do we? Yes, we've got Bill online. So, right, questions on health and safety. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, look, just very quickly, it looks, Bill, am I right in reading the abuse numbers going down from 17 to 11 to 3 so far this year? And the other question is, just a reference at the very last page, or nearly the last page, A20 had 2 incidents that were near misses relating to road use. Precisely what does that actually involve?
Okay, can you hear me? Am I coming through?
Yes.
Okay, through the chair, Councillor Hopkins, yes, the abuse numbers are coming down. There was quite a bit of resistance to mask wearing, which caused a lot of grief at the pool and library. And the second thing with the A20, that information relates to particularly at Benmore. Some of the road corners are quite tight and you don't actually see that there's cars and cars coming around onto pedestrians. So that's another reason for the MB application for funding to take the trail off those sort of higher risk areas.
Thank you.
Councillor Ryan.
Through the chair, how are those incidents recorded when they're near misses? Would there potentially be many more than just 2 that are reported?
Through the chair, all the incidents on the trail we are promoting with the tour guides, etc., and through our general comms, because we have a responsibility for our half in terms of the maintenance of the trail. So we record every incident both within the A20 framework across the 2 councils and here in terms of our safety software. So we record every incident. I follow through with the people investigating, and we come up with any impact for council. So it is all being recorded. I keep in pretty close with Robin, the trail manager.
I think, Bill, the part of the question is also, what do we do to promote reporting? Because, if you're just a casual user on the trail, like the guides, I think, the tours are probably pretty good at it, but the casual users or independent users, not so much. Is there signage or something? Yeah.
There is signage on the trail, and that is one of the considerations with the facts of every particular incident. So that's the first question is, do we need signage there to alert all users? Then it's a matter of using international signage as much as possible, so it covers a wider spectrum of users.
So no, that'd be good to know what, how much information is out there, because equally you don't want to sign totally cluttered with, a trail's totally cluttered with signs, but does need to be accessible about how they report something. Councillor Percival.
Yeah, Bill, I come to town about 80 times a year, give or take a few. Going about whatever I'm going about, I often get abused. In fact, generally, I'm abused by some ratepayer for some area of our organisation. If I was a more sensitive nature, I could probably get more mentally disturbed than I am. So should I report these and bring up your stats a bit more?
It's all risk-based, Guy. There's not a high risk, and you've got broad shoulders.
Well responded. Okay. Oh, Mr. Hope's got a box of tissues for you. No, something else is important.
No, I mean, humour aside, as you're part of the organisation, we would actually prefer that you report if there is a specific incident of abuse, because we provide training to officers about how to deal with, how to de-escalate situations, and it's something that we possibly should extend to elected members because, as we've highlighted a number of reports, we believe people are increasingly aggravated and increasingly likely to react in a very adverse way. And Mrs. Bailey mentioned that also we do have OCP that is available to elected members as well. So,
through the chair, I might just add to what Paul's said there, that the thing that we determine as abuse is where an interaction ends up still negative, where we've been able to de-escalate and or get an apology, etc. They aren't the ones that are notable in our incident register. It's the ones that end up still negative. We have zero tolerance for abuse, and we've got a number of actions we can take up at CE level to address that with the perpetrators. Thank you.
Councillor Blackler.
I just had a question on page 60, item D, about engaging with contractors regarding the overlapping duties of PCBUs. I just wanted a brief overview of what that looks like.
Okay, for a specific incident, because we use contractors to do our work, we're very much relying on them being au fait with the requirements of the Act. But what we're doing now is engaging more directly with those contractors to check and ensure that all the duties are covered on site. We have dual responsibilities. We're the engaging PCBU, and they're the ones doing the work. But between us, there are site-specific duties that have got to be ticked off as one party or other doing. So we're asking more direct questions, and it's been interesting. Some of the larger ones have surprised us at more the top level in terms of their understanding of what the PCBU's overlapping duties are. So we're going to do more of that because we've got to assure ourselves that everything is able to happen healthily and safely on site as works progress.
Thank you. Councillors, any other questions? No? Okay. Oh, one more. So it's all done. So you're quite moved by the whole session. That's great. Noted. No, thank you very much, everyone. This draws it to a close the council activity update. So, and thank you very much all of the staff putting together this. It's very helpful. And as a format, I think it's very good. Have talked a wee bit about whether we are more clear about here's what's happened over since last report versus here's what we're going to be doing. Whether that's more defined, but equally we don't want to create more work for staff. So thank you very much though, and with that we'll call this session to a close. Thank you.